You're a mum, you're a mum, you're a busy mum. Come listen to the Busy Mum podcast. Life hacks and inspiration for the busy modern mum.
In this week's episode of the Busy Mum podcast, I speak with Jennifer. Jen is a mum to 2 boys and a dietitian, working 3 days per week. And as something a little bit different, she's become an Arbonne International consultant. Jen has introduced me to the world of fruit and veg co-op. I'm actually a part of one in Balmain, so thank you so much for the explanation you gave me. Check out the show notes on the website for links and references from the interview. Here we go. Welcome to the Busy Mum podcast.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about you, your business, and what makes you such a busy mum.
I'm a mum of 2 boys who my youngest is almost a year old and my oldest is about 2 3/4. I've been married about 7 years. I've known my husband over 10 years now. And I'm a working mum as well. I've gone back to work after my second child. I'm currently working 3 days a week as a clinical dietitian at the Children's Hospital. I work at the Children's Oncology Unit at the Randwick Children's Hospital. I do private practice once a month at a clinic in Bondi, seeing children with allergies, fussy eating. And I've just started a business working as an independent consultant for Arbonne International, which is a health and wellness company, which I do in my spare time. And on top of all that, I'm attempting to complete my PhD on nutrition in children with cancer, which has been going on for many years, and the aim is to get that finished in 2015.
So with my experience with PhDs, my husband did one as well, it's about 10 years to really go from start to finish.
It is. People ask me sort of how are you going, and the answer is I don't know. And because I'm doing it part-time, I don't have a scholarship, so really I could probably do it for another 2 or 3 years before the university starts yelling at me to get it done. I just decided this year, if I don't get it done this year, it's just never going to happen. So I've just decided that's it, it's being finished this year.
So how many hours a week are you going to dedicate to it?
Okay, what I'm supposed to do and what I'm doing are 2 different things. So the plan was every Sunday morning my husband was going to look after the kids and I'd do about 6 hours, and then on Tuesdays I was going to stay back at work and my husband look after the kids. And then life has kind of got in the way. So I've done 1 Sunday morning this year. Haven't quite got much done at work, and I've got my first 2 chapters due to my supervisors in March. So a lot more hours than I'm actually achieving so far on the PhD. It will get done. It will.
I'm going to check in on you.
You might be me too. I need accountability.
Exactly. Yeah, accountability is awesome. It really is. That's why I post everything up on Facebook and I'm like, this is going to happen on this date. Ah!
I know.
And then I freak out behind the scenes and I get it done. So.
Well, that's it. We all need deadlines, and I think that's probably my PhD because it's not a scholarship. Really, like I said, I've probably got another 2 years before I really need to hand it in, so that's going to make it harder, but I really do want to get it done this year.
So just describe for us a day in the life of you.
So on a day that I work, we're up about 5:30, 6 o'clock, not necessarily by choice. My youngest son decides that's the time that he wants to get up. We have been getting 6 o'clock starts at the moment, which I think is awesome, but it actually works for us really well because both my husband and I start work really early. We're both at work by 7:30 in the morning, which means we need to drop our kids off at childcare by 7. So a 6 o'clock wake up works well. They get their morning milk. We both get our showers done and we rush them to childcare for 7 so we can both get to work by 7:30. My husband and I take it in turns to pick up the kids from childcare. So because we both start early, we both finish early. So the kids are generally picked up from childcare about 4:30, home by about 5 o'clock. And then it's the usual dinner, play, bath and bed. At the moment, luckily, my kids are in bed mostly by 7. So then we have dinner after the kids are in bed. And then it's either mainly me trying to do some work at night. I've had to give up a bit of TV since having about 3 businesses, which was okay, but now the block started again, so I'm not sure how I'll achieve that.
Can you take
We both try and get to the gym sometimes, but I haven't been achieving that as well in the last few months at the moment. And even though I really should be in bed by, 9, it's more like 10:30 at the moment, 11 o'clock. Obviously, the days that I'm not working, much more relaxed. We're still up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, but at least there's no rushing out the door by 7, which is great.
Yeah, it's really stressful, that rush to get out the door and go to work. That's just manic.
It is. I think we're lucky with our childcare, even though it's an early drop-off at 7, it's a very, very long daycare. They do provide breakfast, so we don't need to get our kids fed because if we did, then I don't think we'd actually be able to achieve getting them to childcare. So we can kind of get them up, give them their milk, both of us get ready, and then both of us will normally have breakfast at work, and our kids all have breakfast at childcare. So that makes life a lot easier.
It sure does. I remember giving my kids breakfast bars in the car, you know, or an up and go, and I know that's really bad.
Yeah, but you got to do what you got to do. My kids are particularly slow eaters, and I think if we had to give them breakfast at home, it can take half an hour, 45 minutes. So I think we would have to do something like that. And especially as our childcare is only a 5-minute drive down the road, I think we'd be in trouble if they didn't provide breakfast. So we're very lucky that way.
Awesome. And did you have any life hacks to make it go a little bit smoother?
Definitely being organised with food and meals for both us and the kids. That's a huge thing. So I definitely my husband and I plan our meals for the week on the weekends, and we go food shopping. I mean, we don't always go food shopping. We'll either do the click and collect from Coles or get a food delivery. What's really good is that we're actually part of a veggie co-op, and there's a group of Inner West families, which means we all take it in turns to go to the markets to pick up the fruit and veg. But it also means that we've got lots of fruit and vegetables, and we know what we're going to base our meals on, because if we've got 10 eggplant, we know that we're going to have lots of eggplant meals this week, but it makes it easier to decide what we're going to eat. So definitely pre-planning the meals is a huge thing. And for the kids, having lots of meals that I've cooked in the freezer. So that makes a difference. So if we've got food that are leftovers, my husband used to get them for lunch. Now he does no longer get leftovers for lunch. He has to have sandwiches, and the rest of the leftovers go in the freezer, and normally the kids will have that. And so once we get home from childcare with the kids, there's something that I just need to quickly cook up some vegetables, and the kids' meal is done, which is great.
That is good. It's really good. I need to get into doing food roster. I remember I used to do it, and it worked out really well. We had less wastage, but now I don't know what's wrong with me. I just don't do it. I don't have time to do it.
Yeah, it's funny for me with the co-op. It's a bit of work because we have to go out to the markets once every 7 weeks and pick up from around the Inner West. But for me, when I now have to pay full price for fruit and vegetables, it really upsets me how expensive it is. And also having to plan meals based around, that I don't know what fruit and veg I've got, so I have to buy it, doesn't work for me. So I definitely prefer the slightly more work going to the markets once every 7 weeks and picking up a box actually helps us in the end, which is good.
So which markets do you end up going to?
So it's Flemington out at Homebush. So it's on a Saturday morning, and our co-op, you've just got to have the fruit and veg ready for everyone by 11 o'clock. We normally go early because it's a lot earlier, especially as our kids wake us up early anyway. It's easy to go. A lot of the time my husband just goes by himself, and, we come back, sort the boxes, and then everyone else just picks them up. So, but again, we only have to go out to the markets once a month, or once every 7 weeks, because there's 7 families.
Yeah, 7 families. And then where do you get the boxes from? Do you just have boxes lying around, or do you recycle the boxes?
Yeah, you recycle the boxes. So, because you get so many boxes from the other people the weeks, in fact, you end up having to throw some out or recycle some. So, and then you just sort out the boxes for everyone, and they just come and pick it up from you. If you're not home, they just put money under the door. We know how much it is because it's a set price. It works really well. It's actually, I couldn't imagine paying retail for my fruit and vegetables now.
So how do you figure out what to buy, or you just buy what's on special?
Everyone's different. I tend to we buy it definitely seasonal, but you just buy what you like as a family, and everyone else has to suffer. So my family eats a lot of salad and a lot of tomatoes. We always buy a box of tomatoes. I have to say this, I haven't quite worked out the knack of cooking kale yet. So I don't normally buy kale, but a few of the other families do. So I just have to go, we've got kale, so I'm just going to have to cook with it. I haven't found any good recipes for it yet. Eggplant was a funny one because my husband really didn't like eggplant, but we get so much eggplant that we've now got some great eggplant recipes, and he really likes it now. So you just get what they give, and because of that, I love fennel. I've never cooked with that before. Pomegranates I've never used before. We now use them quite a lot. So it helps you be a little bit more creative with the cooking as well.
Awesome, very cool. And what's the best advice your mum's given to you?
Go with your gut instinct with kids. I think that's probably the best. I'm not always great at listening to advice, so I'm going to go with follow your gut instinct. Awesome. Most of the time. I think mother's intuition is always, or mostly always, correct.
I thought I would pause the interview there and let you know that we have a Facebook page and group. I'd love to see you there, so just search the Busy Mum podcast in Facebook and you will find me. I also wanted to share with you the why of this podcast. Why am I doing this? Well, the main reason is that I want to give back to the parenting community through conversations. Originally, I wanted to write a book, but I didn't consider myself an expert in this area. So I thought I would interview everyday parents and share with you their tips, tricks, life hacks, and support. If you have any areas that you would like to see being discussed in more depth, please drop me an email. I'm at thebusymumpodcast@gmail.com. Now back to the interview. How have kids changed your world?
The short answer is a lot, but that's, I'm sure, with everyone listening says the same thing. The funny one is that I thought we were busy before kids came along, but it turns out we actually had plenty of spare time. Though I remember when I didn't have kids, everyone would be saying, oh, you just don't understand busy until you've had kids. And I'm like, I'm busy now. But then you do realise when you have kids that your life does change, and it definitely gets a lot busier. I think what we used to use our spare time for, my husband and I, was a lot of exercise. We used to drag a boat, we used to go to the gym, and both of us definitely don't get to exercise as much as we used to. So it's maybe that it's not that we don't have as much spare time, but we just used to use our time differently, and our priorities have had to change. And we definitely don't get to spend as much time together, the two of us, especially as we've just had two kids back to back. They're only 22 months apart. It's been a bit of a crazy couple of years, so that's something, we'll have to bring back date night and time together. But, I wouldn't have it any other way. But it was an interesting, I was thinking about this before, that something else has really changed is how I sort of thought about my career. Like, I love my job, I love my career, and I always thought I would go back to working full-time, not pretty soon after having my two kids, but, that I would always be back full-time. And I never thought it would be any different to that. And I do love my career, but since I've especially had my second child, and I know that we're not having any more, so therefore no more maternity leave, I've actually realised that I necessarily don't want to go back full-time as quick as I thought, and that my priorities have changed. So that's been actually a really interesting mind shift for me. So I've been sort of exploring other ways of bringing income, which is why I'm doing the Arbonne independent consultant work, which is very different to what I used to do as my job as a dietitian, but it's just trying to find other ways to still earn a good income, but maybe be able to work more part-time rather than having to do the full-time work. But we'll see. But I can't imagine not working as a dietitian because I do love it.
I was exactly the same. I think it wasn't after my first child, because after my first child I was quite happy to go back to work.
Oh, yeah.
That was fine.
Yeah.
But then, throw another one in the mix and it just becomes a bit chaotic. And then you kind of go, oh, I really want to raise them my way.
Yeah.
And then you want to spend a bit more time with them. So I think there's a lot of women out there looking for an alternative to the part-time or full-time work. And, they're wanting to start their own businesses or work from home in some way or form. So, I think that can resonate with a lot of listeners, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Though I have to say, I still definitely like 3 days of work at work. Like, I don't want to give up that.
That's you time. I can definitely relate to that because I don't get that.
Oh, no, I love work. Work's great. I've got no problem with work. But 3 days a week work is nice. And if I could keep that up as long as I can, I'd be very, very happy. And then 2 days at home with my children, but 3 days being able to have a hot cup of tea would be great.
You need to get one of those keep cups or something. What are they called? Keep cups that, they're like insulated and they've got the hot thing on. So you've got at least 2 hours to drink that cup of tea.
I know. I think I do need that for at home.
I invested in one of them with my second because I was always worried that she was going to knock my cup of tea over. And I knew at least if it had a lid, it would only kind of dribble out. So, yeah.
That's fair enough. Whereas at least I don't have a problem because it's always cold. So at least my kids aren't going to hurt themselves on a hot cup of tea because it's always cold.
Exactly. So do you have any go-to recipes or any probably interesting or quirky recipes considering you're part of that co-op?
Well, I was going to say my go-to recipes, because of the co-op, especially in winter actually, you tend to get a lot of excess zucchini and eggplant and capsicum because it's sort of winter vegetables. So I tend to just cook them all up if we've got too much and make them into a ratatouille, which actually has worked really well because I just throw it into the freezer, which is what my kids had tonight. She had tonight a combination of frozen ratatouille and a frozen bolognese sauce that had vegetables in it, and then we just had to cook up some pasta and away we go. And luckily my youngest loves his finger food, so he just eats that all with his fingers. So the veggie cop works well because it's just like, oh, we've got all these vegetables, let's just throw them all together, add a tin of tomatoes, and then I've got a ratatouille to go for the freezer. So that's my kind of go-to recipe. And as a dietitian, I'm very happy because they're getting lots of vegetables, so it makes me very happy as well.
I used to make so much ratatouille, and I haven't made it for ages. So I think now I'm gonna go buy some veggies and make that.
And it's funny because I hadn't actually given it to my boys for quite a few months, actually. You know, you go through phases like any meals, and they both loved it tonight. So I was like, oh, thank God they still like it. You always worry that if you give something too much, they'll get over it and never eat it again. So that's probably, one of my good go-to meals. But I just had forgotten about it for a while. But it does work well.
Awesome. So are you reading any books right now?
It's funny, I love reading, and I've gone off it a lot. Obviously, we've just come off a year of sleepless nights. We sleep now, so I sort of stopped reading for a while. And remember, I should be using my spare time to do my PhD, supposedly at the end of this year. But since I've been doing my business, I've been reading a lot more sort of business-orientated books and a bit more books on mindset. And I just finished one called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and these aren't the kind of books that I ever would have read. I'm definitely a fiction girl. But they're really good. They're kind of focusing on mindset and success. And really, they're actually good for all aspects of your life, not just business. Very hard. I'm not going to explain the book because I wouldn't do it justice. But if you're looking for something different to read, I would recommend it, especially for anyone looking at not necessarily business, but looking at mindset and looking at life choices. It's a very good book.
Do you have like one takeaway from that book that you could share?
Oh, God, this is actually, see if I can explain it. It's more about that every little decision you make might not affect you now. So you might decide, I'm going to go to the gym today. And if you go to the gym, great. And if you don't go, nothing will happen either. But all these small decisions over time actually will then add up. And then if I don't go to the gym for a year, then I'm going to be really unfit. So it's about looking at every little decision you make. You might not get benefit in the short term, but you will likely get benefit in the long term. Or if you don't make the decision, you won't suffer in the short term, but you may suffer in the long term. And that's what the Slight Edge is about. I probably haven't done it justice, but it's worth a read.
Look, that resonates with me because this is how I'm doing my podcast. When I started it, it was at the beginning of December 2014. And I said to myself, because I knew I was taking on a lot. I already ran a business, had kids and, had to be a wife and a house cleaner and all that. And I thought, I'll just do a little bit every day. Just a little bit. If it's one email, that's great. If it's setting up a domain, that's fine. If it's getting a good microphone or a cable or just, writing down some ideas, the questions or agenda, I thought I just do a tiny little bit each day. And I tell you what, it grows.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's the Slight Edge. Because if you then, the philosophy is if you got to the one night and gone, I just won't send that email, nothing will happen. But then you might have missed out on something.
Well, you don't know
important.
Where that email is going to lead you to.
Exactly. And that's the Slight Edge principle, that there's no such thing as neutral. You're either going in the positive or the negative. There's no kind of neutral. So anyway, like I said, I don't think I've probably done the book justice, but definitely worth a read.
Awesome. So what 2 areas in your life would you like to improve and why?
Definitely my fitness. I'm someone who, before my kids, I was, I used to dragon boat, but I was going to the gym even 4 or 5 mornings a week. Even through my first pregnancy, I was probably exercising up till 32 weeks, 4 or 5 times a week. And then after my first child, I was still dragon boating and I was exercising a little bit less. And now since I've had my second child and taken on a lot more extracurricular activities with lots of, extra jobs, my fitness has just gone out the window. And I do miss being fit. So definitely I need to improve my fitness. I know everyone says that, but it's something that I used to be very fit. So it's not good being in the opposite direction. And I think, as I mentioned before, is quality time with my husband. We need to bring back, not necessarily date nights, but we need to start, finding babysitters and actually going out, the 2 of us. And that's something that I'm hoping to do this year.
You could do a home date night. We do those. We've got Apple TV and we download a movie. And we sit on the couch, have our wine, watch the movie. Because sometimes it does cost a lot of money to get your babysitter in, and then you pay $100 for dinner and drinks and taxi and all of that. So if you're short on cash, I definitely recommend the home date nights.
That's a good idea, and especially like you and myself, if you've always got work you can do at home, you just tend to do that instead. So it's almost like booking in a day, like a date night, but just saying we're staying at home but not doing any work. That's how it goes.
Sorry. It's really hard for me because I work from home, and it is hard to kind of switch off because the first thing I do each morning is check my emails, and I'm like, no, don't check the emails, just kind of get a cup of tea.
I know, but we all do it. Smartphones make it too easy now.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry to interrupt. However, if you like this interview, I would love to receive a review on iTunes. This would help the show immensely move up the ranks on the iTunes podcast directory. All you need to do is click on the iTunes link on the website, find the ratings and review tab, and you're off and running. If you get stuck, please let me know. And lastly, most of our interviews have book or product recommendations. If you are interested in purchasing any of these, it would help me out if you click the link from my website. It won't cost you any more, and this way I can earn money to make the show better. Now let's get back to that interview.
What website have you signed up to recently, or not recently, that you actually find value in receiving their emails?
It's funny, I can't actually think of a specific one at the moment because about a month or so ago when I went back to work, I actually deleted a lot of these websites that I was getting emails from because I found it was sort of stressing me that I have 200 emails in my inbox, and most of it was just, things like Kudo deals and Spreets, and any good websites were getting mixed up, and it was just getting too stressful seeing 200 unread emails. So I actually went through, it was quite cathartic, and actually unsubscribed to pretty much everything, which has actually been good because I think you can get to the opposite way where you end up subscribing to too many emails and then it just gets too stressful. So at the moment, I have to say that there's nothing really specifically that I'm loving at the moment because I got rid of everything. So that's my advice, is maybe look at how many you've actually subscribed into and get rid of some because it can get stressful.
You know what I found? Because when I asked that question, a few ladies have said the same answer as you, and I think it's the time of the year.
Yeah.
It's the Christmas period and people start to reflect and go, I don't need that, I don't need that, I don't need that. I reckon when I start doing interviews in the middle of the year, it'd be different.
Yeah, exactly. And also for me, when I've got a 1-year-old baby, so, 6 or 7 months ago when I'm up 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night feeding, being on your iPhone and looking at emails and website would give you something to do in the middle of the night when you're up all night. Now that we do actually get sleep, it's like I haven't got as much spare time to look at them as well. So it could also be to do with what age everyone's children are at as well, and what spare time they've got.
Exactly.
So if you're up 6 times a night, you might actually be reading those because it gives you something to do when you're feeding for 45 minutes with a newborn baby.
Oh, I remember those nights. Oh my God.
It's so becoming a distant memory. Thank goodness.
And it goes really quickly because my youngest is 2.5, and I've forgotten what it's like to have new babies.
Yeah.
All the extra work. I can actually, change the nappy with her standing up now.
I wish my second still squirms. But even with an almost 1-year-old, I've almost forgotten, but not enough to have number 3.
And what's one piece of advice you would give your pre-baby self?
Look, this is probably the same advice that everyone suggests, which is enjoy your free time and enjoy your ability to make spontaneous decisions. I think that's probably the thing I miss the most. And my ability to travel. When my oldest was 10 months old, we went to Thailand. Good friends of ours got married, which seemed like a good idea at the time, and it was a good trip, but it really wasn't the holiday that we remembered the previous time we'd been to Thailand. So definitely enjoy your ability to travel to overseas destinations without children.
What's the most useful or useless baby item you have?
Actually, I would have thought originally that useless, I would have said all those stuffed toys you get when the baby's first born, but my toddler went through a phase of loving his stuffed toys, and now they're all at the end of his bed. So I won't say that they're useless anymore because he does enjoy playing with them. My most useful has been since I've had my second baby. I got one of those really big Penny Scanlon bags, the ones that got stars all over them, and they're huge, and it's great when you're trying to take all the nappies, and I've been trying to toilet train my toddler, so I need 3 or 4 changes of clothes, and all my baby clothes, plus nappies, plus snacks. So the big bags has been really great, actually.
What's your experience like with daycare?
I've generally been happy with my kids at daycare. They go twice a week. Obviously, I feel like there's times where they're sick and they spend more time at home than they actually do at daycare. I actually think childcare has made my toddler a little bit more confident. He's quite a shy child, but he's definitely thrived at daycare. And I definitely don't have any regret sending my children to daycare. And like I said, they're there twice a week. Some days it's like I wish they'd follow, especially my baby. There's some of the routines they do with my baby. I'm a bit like, it's not what I'd be doing at home. But the other thing I've learned with daycare is you just got to let it go. I don't love always the food that they provide, but, I don't have the control there. So I've just, let it go. And as long as they come home happy and not too distraught, then I'm happy.
I think daycare is good because of the socialisation aspect as well.
Yeah,
so they get to mix with other kids. Sometimes that's a bad thing, but most of the time it's a good thing.
And I've noticed as my eldest got older, he now has friends. Like you say, who are your friends? And he tells me who his friends are. So it's lovely. It's lovely to see.
Yeah, it is lovely. So you've got 2 kids. So which transitioning period was easier for you? 0 to 1 child or 1 to 2 children?
The easier was definitely going from 0 to 1. Again, everyone tells you going from 1 to 2 children is exponentially harder, and you hear people say this and you're like, they're just exaggerating. And then you have 2 children, especially as I had them really close together. 22 months apart is not recommended. No. And so we really found that transition from 1 to 2 kids really, 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 really tough. I've only sort of been reflecting in the last month or so that life is definitely getting easier with the 2 of them. My oldest is now toilet trained, which has helped, and my youngest is almost walking, and he's a lot more independent. So life is definitely a lot easier, but that was a really hard transition going from 1 to 2. I found that harder than going from 0 to 1.
Yeah, I found like it's a bit of a juggling act, isn't it? Like you've got to be organised. Yeah, I've been told by other women is that so when you have your second baby, it's still all about the toddler.
Yes.
It's not about the baby.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I was finding is, especially at 22-month-old, my toddler was not even really a toddler. He was still a baby. And, and he's, especially, and it was hard, especially with the toilet training. So I'm trying to toilet train my toddler, and then my baby's screaming downstairs because in the high chair I've had to rush upstairs to put my toddler on the toilet, or vice versa when I've been trying to settle my baby, getting to sleep in those early days, and all my toddler's going, Mum, and comes upstairs and wakes the baby because we've got a 2-story place. It's really, that was really, really hard. But like I said, definitely it's getting easier now that they're older.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today.
That's all right. It's been great.
Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Busy Mum podcast, where I speak with Dominique. Dom for short. Dom has 2 kids and her partner has a 14-year-old son from a previous marriage, so there's a little bit of juggling work each week. Dom works on a part-time basis as a retail buyer and is also a Tupperware consultant. That's great stuff, so if you need any, get in touch with her.
You're a mum, you're a busy mum. Come listen to the Busy Mum podcast. Life hacks and inspiration for the busy modern mum.